Hey, welcome back. My name is Alex. I'm a freelance videographer and filmmaker, and if you've been keeping up with my channel, then you know that we've recently been going through the BU in order. And some of you pointed out that it is probably a good idea to have some sort of a summary on what's going on in the BU before we continue going forward. So that's exactly what we're doing today. So I have this video from X Celeste, and it's a story summary from 2019 of everything. And the Wings era happened in like 2016, at the end of 2016. So this video does cover a lot more than what we have covered on this channel already, but I'm just gonna stop it when she starts talking about the Wings era. So let's get right on into it.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound,
Okay.
a dimension of sight, a dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance.
See, I don't know what that is.
And ideas.
That's from the Wings
You've
era,
just
I think, because I've
crossed
looked at those
over
videos.
into the Bangtan universe.
Hopefully she just does go
So
in
today
order,
I'll be summarizing
and we
the
can't actually stop.
Bangtan universe. Remember that this is just a storyline and not real-life events. This was all created by Big Hit themselves. All this information was gathered from the notes, Save Me webtoon, music
What video is she
videos,
showing
and
right now?
clips.
Because that looks...
Let's
that was a
start
really
at
pretty
the
intro.
beginning where the boys first.
I also haven't looked at any of the webtoons or clips, and I know that that is like a really big part in the BU. I tried downloading the app so I could look at the webtoons like on my own, and you can only look at like one a day. So yeah, I kind of gave up. But yeah, so she's gonna go over it.
March 2nd, year 19. The boys were late for school, and as punishment, they were all
Okay.
sent to clean a storage room. Through this event, they all became close friends
Wait,
and
when did
made
this
the
happen?
storage classroom their own hideout. They began to create a lot of happy moments together. June 12, year 19.
Yeah, I didn't-
All the boys decided to ditch school to
Didn't
go
see
to
that
the
video.
beach. And while they were at the beach, Hosok suggested to visit a rock that was 3.5 kilometers away. They got to the location only to realize that the rock was no longer there. It was under construction for a seawall. But then they began to yell out their
Where did
dreams
she get this?
over the loud sounds of the drill. This was when they took the first Polaroid picture at the beach.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. It's from the webtoons.
As time
Makes
went
sense.
on, their own hardships began to tear them apart.
I saw that video.
On May year 20, Namjoon decided to move to the countryside with his brother, mother, and ill father. He was about to write a letter to the boys, but instead, he fogged up the window in their hideout and wrote,
Okay.
"We must survive." And then Namjoon left without saying
So that
anything to
must
the
be
boys.
from the webtoon too, right?
Namjoon has always lived in poverty. Him and his family would struggle to come up with money for his father's
hope I'm
hospital
gonna be able to
bills.
figure out where-
He did his best to earn money from
where to
doing a
stop.
bunch of part-time jobs. The boys always looked up to him because of how responsible he was, but he felt the pressure.
What video is that?
Taehyung looked
I
up
saw
to
this
Namjoon
video.
a lot. When he was young, his mother left him and his older sister behind. Both him
I'm more
and his
confused with the
sister grew up
visuals. Like, I
getting
understand that she's
abused
doing it
by their alcoholic father.
for the story,
Since
but
Taehyung doesn't open up about his feelings and hardships, the boys don't know what he's going through. June 11, year 20. Seokjin was forced by the
Okay.
principal to reveal their hideout. The principal threatened to tell Seokjin's father about how he was a bad student. A teacher walked into their hideout while Jungkook and Yoongi were playing the piano. The teacher came up and slapped Jungkook. Yoongi became defensive and pushed the teacher. He ended
interesting.
up getting expelled from school, and Jungkook blames himself for what happened.
sorry, I'm so quiet. This is literally all
Seokjin
new
lived
information.
in
I
a
had no
wealthy
idea.
family. When his mother passed away, his father sent him to the US to live with his grandmothers. His father has always been strict and cold towards him. Seokjin just wanted to make his family proud.
Okay.
September 15, year 20. Hosuk and Jimin were at the bus stop when Jimin ended up having a seizure. He was brought to the hospital. Hosuk wanted to stay by his side, but Jimin's mother turned him away. When Hosuk was about 6 or 7 years old, his
I knew this
mother
part.
brought him to a carnival and gave him a chocolate bar. She told him to close his eyes and count to 10. When he opened his eyes, she was gone. She abandoned him. and he ended up living in an orphanage for 10 years.
Oh no.
Through this event, Hosok developed narcolepsy, or at least that's what he says. Theory: Hosok actually doesn't have narcolepsy, but a disorder called Munchausen syndrome. It's a mental disorder in which a person repeatedly or deliberately acts as if he or she has a physical or mental illness when he or she is not really sick.
That is a really terrifying disease. The only times I've ever heard of this disease is with parents on their kids. So parents will literally like make their children think that they have like cancer or something terrible like that. And they will put them through all of these treatments in and out of hospitals and everything when the kid is fine. Like it is a really, really sick disease.
September 28, year 20. Jimin is still in the hospital, and today was a special day for him. He lied for the first time and told the doctors that he didn't remember a thing. When Jimin was about 8 years old, an incident at the Flowering Arboretum scarred him for life. Ever since this incident, he began to have seizures, and his parents would keep bringing him to all these hospitals. He ended up transferring to 5 different schools because of this.
Wow. What video is that? It looks so
Jimin
pretty.
witnessed a little kid's murder at the Flowering Arboretum. There was a 5-year-old kid whose last name was Choi. His father's company went bankrupt and Min were chasing after him. The Min must have brought him to the Flowering Arboretum, and Jimin witnessed them killing him. Jimin ended up running away. Now this
so
little
is she getting
kid
all of
named
this
Choi
backstory
is
from the
also linked
webtoons?
to Seokjin. He was in the same class when 2 men tried to come in and take him. Seokjin saved the boy and brought him over to his house to hide, but then the men came over there. Seokjin's father let them in and stopped Seokjin from helping the boy. September 30, year 20. Jungkook would go to their secret hideout every day in hopes of one day seeing them all gather together again. In the end, they didn't. It was just Hosok and Jungkook. Jungkook relied on the boys a lot. His father left him when he was 7, so he lived with his mother, stepfather, and stepbrother. Now he would get abused by his stepbrother while his stepfather and mother just watched and did nothing. So his family were the boys, who were now falling apart.
And he was alone.
He was very close to Yoongi, and they were the ones who would always go to the hideout to play the piano together. Yoongi has always loved making music, but when he was about 15 years old, his house caught on fire with his mother still inside. She passed away. She was the reason why Yoongi started to play the piano, because she used to play it herself. Him and his father didn't have a good relationship, and it seems as if his father didn't want him to continue making music anymore. Theory: Yoongi's mom was the one who started the fire to commit suicide. Now the story goes on.
Wow, okay. It's a really good thing that you guys wanted me to look at the entire story up until this point, because I had no idea about any of this. We're 7 minutes into this video, and I literally had no idea about any of their backstory. Well, maybe just like a tiny bit, but why is it so deep? I know that this is all like fictional. It all happens within the BU, and it's not directly tied to like them in real life, but does it have something to do with their own personal struggles? I feel like it would, right? I don't know. It's so
Namjoon
deep.
left for the countryside without telling anyone, but ends up coming back after over a year and lives in a container. Seokjin transferred
so this
to a
is the
school
part where
in Los
I've actually
Angeles
like looked at
without a word. Taehyung's whereabouts were always unknown. Yoongi never showed up after being expelled from school. Jimin never came back to school after going to the hospital. Hosok was now working a part-time job at a burger joint, and sometimes he would see Jungkook in his school uniform. April 11, year 22. Seokjin finally came back to Korea after 2 years and 10 months.
Wow.
He drove to a gas station and spotted Namjoon working there. He decides not to say hi though and ended up driving away. May 22nd, year 22. Seokjin begins to wonder what the other boys were doing now. He decides to go back to the gas station to visit Namjoon. But when he got there, he found out that Namjoon ended up going to jail. He got his phone number and went to visit him. Namjoon revealed that he got into jail after getting into a fight with a customer. Hosok was in the hospital after a bad accident. He didn't know where Taehyung and Jimin were, and that both Jungkook and Yoongi were dead. Seokjin was heading out of the police
They're not,
office
though, right?
when he saw Taehyung outside of the entrance. He was tied up and convicted of murder. Taehyung murdered his father and was going to jail.
Oh, I think I saw that in one of the
Seokjin
music
went back to the
videos.
beach they once
right?
visited back in high school. Where did it all go wrong? He asked himself. Then a voice spoke to him. If you could turn back time, do you believe you can straighten out the errors and mistakes and save
Now
everyone?
that makes sense. That's where the whole
He
time
woke
travel
up
comes in.
and it was April 11 again.
Oh.
He thought it was all a
okay.
dream and continued his day like nothing had happened.
And now
He
you
went
get
to
to
the gas
see
station,
the
saw
actual
Namjoon,
music videos.
then again decided not to say hi. And he began to drive through an alley when a body landed on the hood of his car. Then he realized it was Jungkook. His heart begins to beat fast and everything shattered like a mirror around him.
Thank God.
And it was April 11 again. He kept thinking everything was a dream, and so the same things happened again. He went to the gas station, didn't say hi to Namjoon, and this time he was walking down the alley when Jungkook's body dropped behind him.
So he has no other choice but to save them, or else time will
Everything
continue to
shattered,
repeat.
and a voice spoke to him again.
He doesn't
You
even
won't
have a
make it out
choice.
here alone in this entangled destiny. Here's how to remember the loop. Once you open your eyes. Now, he began to see fragments of the previous timelines he was in. Seokjin finally realized that he's been going back in time. Now, things get super complicated during this journey. He begins to find out how each of the boys get in trouble and how
Okay.
they die. But every time he traveled back in time, a few things would change, and that's because of the butterfly effect.
Right.
Butterfly effect, a part of the chaos theory that states that one small change in a
course.
situation can drastically change the
That must be why
outcome
there's
of an
so
event.
many butterflies in the music video.
Now, I personally recommend you reading the Save Me webtoon for a more detailed story because it gets super complicated because he travels back so many times in order to save everyone.
Okay.
So it's a mess. For now, I'll give you the order of events for each member along with their reasons. On April 11, year 22, Namjoon gets into a fight with a customer at the gas station.
Okay.
This event caused him to be sent to prison.
Yes. That
He's
was
been
the first
dealing
time.
with rude customers all the time, but this time he had enough. And you could say he was tired of being looked down on.
Okay.
Later that night on April 11, Jungkook falls off the building of a construction site and dies. He no longer stayed in contact with the boys, and he felt like his family didn't
He
care.
was alone and he felt like he had nothing
Quote,
to live for.
That gave me the idea that I could die if I just took one more step. But would death bring the end of anything? No one would be sad if I was not around anyways. May 2nd, year
That really hits
22.
home.
Yoongi burns himself in a motel or hotel. The location keeps changing every time. There's like 3 different hotels. But he also tries to burn himself on April 29 and May 10 during different timelines because of the butterfly effect.
Okay.
Now, Yoongi would always go around town drunk. He kept his distance from everyone he cared about because he felt like he would always hurt them. He thought it was better to just end the pain. May 10, year 22. Hosok falls down and hits his head while walking on a bridge. And on May 12, year 22, now he was at the hospital for a checkup after hitting his head from having narcolepsy. And he
Right.
thought he saw his mother and tried to chase her down the stairs, but ended up slipping.
Oh.
May 12, year 22. Jimin tries to drown himself in the bathtub at the hospital.
At the hospital?
Now, Jimin's been
You even
stuck
have
in the
bathtubs at
hospital for
hospitals?
years. His mother wouldn't let him out because they were ashamed of his sickness. and he just wanted to be free.
Because of the
May
seizures,
20,
right?
year 22. Taehyung murdered his father and went to jail.
Yes.
He came home
I
to his
saw that
father
one.
beating up his sister, and without thinking, he broke open an alcohol bottle and used it to stab his father. May 22nd, year 22. Taehyung ends up jumping off the viewing platform by the ocean in front of the boys in a different timeline.
died
Seokjin
doing
discovered all these events one at a time after multiple failures, multiple attempts. It was just such a mess. But these are solutions he found during the Save Me webtoon.
Okay.
April 11. He gets to Namjoon at the gas station before he gets into a fight, then rushes over to Jungkook at the construction site to stop him. May 2nd. He then has to figure out which building Yoongi will start a fire in and bust in to save him because Yoongi would choose like 3 different buildings all the time.
Right.
May 10. He catches Hosok from falling on the bridge. Then he kidnaps Jimin from the hospital. After so many tries, Seokjin finally gathered everyone together. They
Okay.
all met up at Namjoon's container place and celebrated. It seemed as if everyone was happy, but then Seokjin let his guard down. He totally forgot about Taehyung stabbing his father. He traveled back in time again, and this time he decided to give Taehyung a ride, hoping to get something out of him. As soon as he dropped him at his home, they heard screams from his place. Taehyung darted towards his place as Seokjin realized that
That he forgot
talking
about
to
him?
him was probably not enough.
Oh.
He chased after him and came into the room while he was beating up his dad. Seokjin tried to stop him, but instead, he ended up getting stabbed instead. April 11 again. This was when Seokjin realized that he can't save everyone on his own.
Okay.
Theory. In the next season of the webtoon, we're still going to go through so many failures, such as Taehyung jumping off the platform by the ocean, and also Namjoon potentially burning himself in his container. This was actually
whoa,
part
what
of
video is
Taehyung's
that?
dreams, which I forgot to mention. Taehyung has these nightmares of the past timelines. He thinks they're all a dream, but these things actually happened. Now, we're still
Right.
trying to figure out though if these
Well, I
dreams
haven't seen
are
that
of
video.
the past timeline or can he see the
I saw
future.
that one.
But anyways, I'll give you my theory as to how each member will be saved. In the notes, Seokjin decides to keep a distance from the other boys and leave hints and clues behind for them to find. You'll understand what I mean in just a second.
Okay.
So Seokjin goes to the gas station to save Namjoon. After that, I don't know what exactly Seokjin does, but Hosok ends up contacting all the boys to invite them over to Namjoon's container house, which
So
is
that
how
makes that music
Yoongi
video
ended up
make a lot
calling
more
Jungkook's
sense.
phone before he was about to fall off the building. Now, in order to save Yoongi, Seokjin uses Jungkook. Taehyung actually spotted Seokjin in the act of helping. He sent Jungkook to visit Yoongi at his workroom, which ended with Yoongi running out and running to the motel/hotel. Seokjin left clues in front of the
Interesting.
building entrance in order to help Jungkook find Yoongi. Jungkook makes it to the motel and saves Yoongi from the fire.
Oh wait, I don't
And
think I saw
instead
that
of
one.
Seokjin saving Hosok from falling on the bridge and hitting his head, he lets that happen. Why? So Jimin can meet Hosok. So Hosok ends up in the bed next to Jimin at the hospital. When Hosok was about to fall down the stairs after chasing who he thought was his mother, Jimin was there to catch him. Since
Right.
Hosok didn't fall and get hurt again,
Interesting.
he was released from the hospital. Hosok and the boys went back to kidnap Jimin. Before leaving, they had a little party in the hospital lounge with snacks and soda. A nurse ends up catching them and they all ran out of the exit together. Seokjin
Okay.
then used Hosok to save Taehyung. Hosok dropped Taehyung home, and just when he was about to leave, Seokjin called him over the phone and asked him to call Taehyung. This made him go into Taehyung's house just before the fight was about to happen. May 22nd, year 22.
Interesting.
This is a day that Seokjin couldn't get past, And finally, he was able to celebrate with everyone being alive. Now they all went back to the ocean where they made their wishes back in high school. Everything was all happy, or at least you thought.
So is that the part
Now
where I
something
should
must have
stop? I
happened
don't know.
because Taehyung became super sensitive. Now I don't know if it's because he overheard Namjoon's conversation over the phone and thought he was talking about him, but Namjoon was actually talking about his younger brother, or maybe a mixture of Taehyung already suspecting that Seokjin was hiding something. But anyways, they were at a place by the ocean when Seokjin was about to confess.
Okay.
He said he had something to tell everyone, and it's something he should have said a long time ago when they were back in high school. Now, Taehyung ends up interrupting him by saying, "When you ratted on us to the principal, or when Yoongi got kicked out of school because of that?" Then that's when the famous line came in. The whole, "Seokjin, is that all? Aren't you hiding something from us?" Now, Namjoon
Interesting.
tries to calm him down, but then he said, "What is all the fuss about being together? What are we to each other? We are all alone at the end." That's when Seokjin punched him and a fight broke out. In the end, Seokjin must have went back into the past again. But in another timeline, Seokjin leaves before all this happens. So when the boys got to the ocean by the observation tower, Seokjin climbs it. But then Taehyung follows after him. And after a while, Seokjin climbs back down, got into his car, and drove off, leaving the boys with no ride.
It's kind of messed up.
Later the same night, Jungkook
guess.
got hit by a car. Theory. I believe it was Seokjin. Now there are clues in the notes pointing to him, especially with Jungkook being suspicious of Seokjin that night, and we'll wait and see though.
Why would he hit him? though?
After the day, May 22nd, they all fell apart and didn't contact each other much. This is when the highlight reels come in. Hoseok was the first person who heard about Jungkook's car accident. He was working
Okay.
at the burger joint when Jungkook's classmates came in and talked about the incident. Hoseok and Jimin came to visit him after he was unconscious for 10 days, and they were
Wow.
upset that he didn't contact them immediately. Taehyung rushed to the hospital, but when he got there, he heard Namjoon and Seokjin talking, and he couldn't bring himself to go in. Jungkook ends up meeting a girl at the hospital who helped him stay positive during his recovery. Yoongi was making music
So,
again, and with
I don't
the
think that
help
I've seen
of
any
a
of
girl who played the
this
guitar. She was giving
stuff.
him free solo performances at school and hospitals, and he was supposed to join her at the hospital the next day. Ever since he got addicted to his work again, he would lose sense of time. He wouldn't answer phone calls or check his messages. Finally, he charged his phone, but then his phone rang. And it was a phone call from Jimin. Jimin told him about Jungkook's car accident the night they all came back from the beach. So Yoongi went crazy. He made it to the hospital, but he couldn't bring himself to go in. He felt like all of this was his fault. Jungkook went outside with the girl he met at the hospital. They were hanging out, sitting on a bench, and he began to sketch until he heard a familiar song. Now, it was a song that Yoongi would play during high school. He looked over and it was the girl with the guitar. He got closer and noticed a lighter hanging on her guitar with the initials YK. Taehyung is now all alone. He catches a girl stealing at a convenience store, and they run into each
Okay.
other a couple more times and ends up basically becoming friends. They spent about a month together until one day, they were spraying graffiti at the bus station Namjoon usually stops at. The cops began to chase after them until they were cornered. Taehyung ends up surrendering, and then after being released, the girl was nowhere to be found.
Oh no.
Jimin ends up going
That's so
back home
sad.
after they returned from the beach. After he ran away from the hospital, he lived with Hoseok. Now it was time to go back. His mother ended up forcing him to join an academy, and he also decided that he wanted to dance, so he joined Hoseok's Just Dance class. During dance practice, Jimin and Hoseok's friend collided. Instead of him reacting to the girl getting hurt, he ends up running into the bathroom to wash the blood off his arm in a panic. Now this reminded him of what happened at the flowering laboratorium, and as soon as he realized what had happened, he ran after Hoseok and the girl with an umbrella to help out, but stopped and turned back around. Hosuk carried the girl in the rain to the hospital. In the process, he ended up hurting his ankle. They made it to the hospital and the doctor told him that she just had a mild concussion. Hosuk discovers a plane ticket to the US in her backpack though.
Is that where the plane
realized
comes
that
from?
she had passed the overseas dance team audition. She became conscious and was ready to go home. When they were at the entrance, she was about to tell him about her going to the US, but instead, Hosuk avoided it and made an excuse to get an umbrella. Namjoon becomes interested in a girl he's been seeing every day for a month. They would take the same bus to study.
Sorry, it was a random place to pause, but I feel like I haven't seen the music videos that all of these correlate to, like at this point, but I'm just gonna watch it. That's what I'm saying.
In the same library before he'd go to work at night. Now, he's never spoken a word to her, but began to wonder what she does and what kind of things she's been enduring. It's probably because she reminded him of himself. He got her a hair tie but ended up leaving it on her backpack when she was asleep on the bus. Eventually, each of the boys begin to rediscover themselves and realize they want to become a better person.
That's good.
Taehyung no longer wanted to be the same and wanted to protect his sister and father, his family. Hosuk decided to leave town and was gone for a while to heal his injured foot. During that time, he helped out a performance group and even toured with them for a little bit. They asked him to officially join their group, but then he realized he needed to go back home. And so he finally comes back to congratulate his friend for going overseas. Yoongi ended up losing the guitar girl, but even though he's given up on music countless of times, he'd always start music again. And this time, he didn't want to run away from it anymore. Jimin continued to dance and would practice by himself every night. He wanted to commit to something and prove that he was good at it.
So this does kind of confirm what I said in the beginning of the video. While these characters are fictional within the BU, they do relate to them in real life. I'm sure of it because Jimin loves to dance. I know that. And Suga, I can only imagine, has tried to stop, but he like really, really loves music. Like I feel like that part is like really true.
Namjoon thought back to his high school
So I'm sure
days.
that their fictional
Everything he had
selves have a
given up
little
on,
bit
he
of
wanted
their
to
real
start it
selves in
again.
them.
Jungkook was the only one who seemed to be off, especially after the car accident. Now, he was just trying to
he got
figure
hit.
out what happened that night. Now, all the boys planned on meeting up for the yearly fireworks on August 30, year 22.
Okay.
It was Hosuk's idea to get everyone together, and after he returned from taking a break, their group chat started buzzing again. Now there's Seokjin. In July, Seokjin saw a girl drop her diary while crossing the railroad tracks. In that diary was her wish list of things to do. He ends up meeting up with her and doing everything she's been wanting to do, but then he never told her that he had her diary. One of
kinda
the
messed
things
up.
on her wish list was Smeraldo flowers. Seokjin was able to
the
find a shop
fictional
he could
flower
order
appears.
through, but they wouldn't be able to get a hold of it until August 30. Seokjin was thinking of confessing his love for her with the flowers while the fireworks bursted in the sky.
That would be very
That was
cute.
his plan. But, of course, that's not what happened. Seokjin was able to receive the bouquet of Smeraldo flowers from the delivery truck. He discovered that there was no card in the bouquet and immediately called the owner. "Ah, I'll make a U-turn now, the light just changed." That's what the owner said. But before the owner finished his sentence, the girl came into view and began to walk towards him
She gets
across the
hit.
road. Then, bam, she got hit by the truck. He stood there helplessly, then heard a mirror crack. Theory: Seokjin travels back
That sucks
again.
So much. That sucks so
Now,
much.
I don't know when he travels back to, since the only date we know is April 11, but dang, that is far. So he must have traveled back to August 30 before he met up with the girl, which explains this clip of him catching the vase like he knew it would fall, and instead of changing it to a suit looking all happy and cute, he's now sad and upset. Instead of getting more involved with the girl, he ends up just giving back her diary and apologizing for having it. The diary acted as a starting and stopping point for them. He then
so
realized
sad.
he tried to be someone else he wasn't. He tried to follow everything in that diary and realized that only by being true to himself can he continue to move forward. So he stood up after giving her the diary, and she didn't try to stop him. Now, there were a lot of things that were left out, and I felt like there were super important keys, but I don't really know which timeline this falls under. At one point when Seokjin went back in time, he was searching for the map of the soul. This was the only hint that he was given, supposedly, and he began to search every bookstore and library. Another important key is the note from August 3, year 22, when the boys brought Seokjin into their old hideout from high school.
Okay.
Quote, "Memories. What Taehyung called memories were stories that did not mean anything to me, that I had done such things, that there had been such things that happened to me, and that we had done things together, such stories. It could be that those things were true, it felt like they were, but remembering is not the same as understanding or accepting. Experiences are not things you can simply hear or figure out. They are things that have to be rooted in your heart, head, and spirit."
Okay.
Doesn't it sound like Seokjin lost his memory or something?
A little bit.
Taehyung tries to stop Seokjin from leaving, and they end up getting into a physical fight. All of a sudden, they knock down a wall that they never knew was there in their hideout. On the other side of the wall was a chained cabinet. They opened it and found a notebook. Now, it wasn't just any notebook. It was the diary of Seokjin's father. Which brings us back to the note from June 25th, year 19. When Seokjin noticed the sentence, "Everything started from here," written in the storage room. His father attended the same school as him, and he wondered if his father also came to the same storage room to hide out in. Did Seokjin's father also have the ability to travel back in time?
Probably.
And
he probably
that's
did.
all I have so far for this timeline. I did my best to summarize what I could, but also include the details you needed. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I mean, this...
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that video went a little overboard on the information that we've covered on this channel so far, but it was really interesting, and it was kind of hard to decipher what happened in like the music videos so far and the webtoons and what's gonna happen in the wings. Like I don't know. The way that she added the music videos on top to help narrate the story was a little confusing, because it seemed like she just picked out clips that would fit and not necessarily the music videos, but that's probably what I would do too. It was just a little confusing. So I'm very sure that I got more information than what I needed to know at the moment, especially since I think that the last BU video we covered was Young Forever. I think that was the last one. Regardless, we are gonna be starting the Wings short films very, very soon. At least I think. I think that they're next. So if you wanna see that, go ahead and subscribe. Thank you, X Celeste, for the video, and all right.